Now, as it's getting colder outside, we have been getting closer to one of the next major moments in the hip-hop world as following the beef and the all-time whooping we saw Drake get from Kendrick Lamar. We are finally on the verge of getting a full-length album from one of the participants in this genre-altering moment in rap music, and while we are still waiting for what Kendrick Lamar has coming, Drake's made it clear that despite him still never giving everyone those summer vibes that he promised after he got humiliated by Kendrick, and despite being the absolute biggest joke in hip-hop for almost this entire whole year, that he is still gonna try to even the score and change the narrative of what's going on this year with an album of his own. And now, after being kicked around the way he has, Drake's made it clear that he's not going to be standing on his own with a solo album, but that he is going to be representing his homeland of Canada once again after neglecting it for so long, as he is tapping right back in with his roots and his fellow OVO signee and R&B singer PartyNextDoor for an entire collab album. And while Drake announced this album back in the summer, and we know that from the way rappers in general and Drake also over the years have hinted at giving us collab albums that never come to fruition, this could have just been another empty promise that would never actually happen. From what we have seen in recent weeks, this is not the case at all, and this album is real, and it is seemingly gonna be dropping within the following weeks, as beyond PartyNextDoor's own comments about the record, which have been trying to just create an ounce of hype for new Drake music at this moment in time, Drake announced to the world that the album is coming soon on a post PartyNextDoor made, where he alluded to the fact that after dropping a solo album this year, that he is preparing to do something else before 2024 ends. And Drake chimed in on this post saying, "It's that time," which is showing us that after over a year of not getting a new Drake album, which is a lot of time considering how frequently he releases, and after the biggest beef in hip-hop pretty much ever went down, which he was obviously a part of, Drake is now telling people that the next chapter in his musical career is about to come, and now the reaction to this saw people acting like this. And I mean, after Drake laid out these comments in an era where if any rapper alludes to a project, people just go absolutely crazy. And people start predicting and hyping up what this new record may sound like, who may be featured, and what type of impact it will end up having, instead of seeing this same type of hype that we always do for big time records in this era. Everyone in and around hip-hop seemed to turn their backs and reject the very prospect of this album in its entirety as they just went on with their lives. And now, while this is shocking in a way because after all, regardless of the outcome of the beef, Drake is still a massive name in music whose back catalog is still making him one of the most streamed artists alive. When we look into everything beyond the perception of Drake and the value his older work holds, if we dive into the actual numbers, despite what his fans may try to tell you, Drake's career, even all these months after everything went down, is in the gutter, as we have now seen solid and standing proof that the Kendrick beef really did hurt him in ways that he will never come back from no matter what. Because just to put things in perspective, after Drake was a mainstay on the Billboard Hot 100, always having a hit song on the charts and really having a brand so powerful that no matter what he released, the song was almost a lock for not just any part of the charts, but at least the top 10. Now at this point, for the first time in years, he has no music occupying any corner of the charts for months, which for an artist that thrives on being a hitmaker and winning over the masses, the fact that Drake is not on the charts for this long is devastating to his reputation, and this isn't just because he has not put out any music in a while, because that's not the case, but it's because the songs he has released have not had any staying power, as every song he dropped besides one have failed to crack the top 50 on the charts, and almost all these new records were off the Hot 100 after their first week of tracking, because the only reason people even listened to them in the first place was to see how Drake was going to be following up such a massive and career-altering moment in his beef with Kendrick Lamar, and as we all of course ended up seeing, these songs were just not good whatsoever. And now if we dig into Drake's post-beef performance further, his most successful song was his collab with Sexy Red, You My Everything, which ended up having a little bit of longevity, mainly because the song gained traction on TikTok due to Sexy Red's part, and just to add a little more context to the fact that this track really cemented that the Drake feature is absolutely worthless right now, the only reason this song was able to climb up to 44 on the charts, which really for Drake standards is pathetic, because in the past, regardless of the quality of a song, Drake's name alone could take a track to the top 10. was because of Sexy Red's part, as while Drake has fell further and further down the charts this year, she has proved more than just having a catchy part that went viral, that she was the full-on reason why this song did anything in the first place, because as almost every new Drake song since the release of this track has flopped, and we saw him most recently reach the peak of his failure after he sunk millions of dollars into doing a song and cinematic video where he literally switched languages to reach a wider audience than ever with his collab with Latin artist Chino Pacas. Which was so pathetic because the song didn't even chart, and somehow despite a complete rebrand, the song just made no noise. And meanwhile, with someone like Sexy Red, she's about to score the first top 10 of her career on the Billboard Hot 100, which keep in mind is something she was never able to do with Drake, with her team up on Tyler the Creator's new album Chromacopia with the cut Sticky. And she has another massive hit climbing the charts right now with Glorilla in the track What You Know About Me. So overall, all of this just indicates to us that the rap world is moving on from Drake, and while people have not stopped streaming his classic albums and massive run of hits, when you look at the performance of all of these new songs, this is not a fluke, this is the new norm. Nobody is interested in hearing anything new from him, because for all intensive purposes, Drake's run is and has been over since Kendrick Lamar released Not Like Us, and at this point, Kendrick Lamar's lyrics for Meet the Grams where he says, "Why believe you, you never gave us nothing to believe in," sum up best about how people feel about Drake, because really, with the point where the culture is at, and with the run of music Drake has given us, which really has been one of the worst we have ever seen from a rapper of his level, as between the 100 gigs drops to all of the features Drake has been a part of, he has given us an album's worth of material and nothing of it has been good, or even just the slightest bit memorable. And in a rap world where there are new MCs who are making bangers and music that is refreshing and fun, and on the other side of the genre, people are healing from the Drake era of half-baked, cloud-chasing, disposable music and are now experiencing what actual boundary-pushing and moving hip-hop looks like. Overall, the need for what Drake is doing, especially in this time where he is at the worst level he has ever been at, is just nearly non-existent compared to where the hype around him used to be. So with this new Drake album, his career is fading away from rap's future, and we have never seen more proof than this than with the fact that no one cares about this new album coming, and as it gets closer to dropping, this is all really gonna get worse, because Drake coming back outside after he lost the biggest rap beef of the 21st century and maybe of all time, and on top of this run where he has been releasing some of the worst music he ever has, and then ultimately making this grand comeback by giving us an R&B album, all in all is only gonna make all of the sentiments about him being a pathetic and sore loser and someone who was kicked out of the rap world hit all the harder, and make Kendrick Lamar's win seem like a bigger and bigger thing than ever, which just makes this entire upcoming era from Drake seem like a ridiculous career move, and over everything makes you wonder where his decision making on all levels has gone. But after all, it really shouldn't be a surprise that Drake's crash out is leading all the way here to a point where he is going to be making an album that is forever going to destroy his reputation as a rapper, and even despite him departing from the genre. Based on this abysmal track record from the past few months, this album is on pace to end up becoming the worst he has ever dropped, and I'm sure with the lack of momentum Drake has and how his career at this point is just a sinking ship, and he is just becoming a more pathetic and bitter person who's only ever making headlines for doing pathetic and bitter things like trying to intimidate someone like DeMar DeRozan during the middle of an NBA game. Overall, all of this is putting Drake on a crash course where things are gonna get a lot worse for him when this album comes around. And now, speaking of this crash out on Drake's end, while this is a bold prediction, I'm going to say that this album is going to end up having the lowest first week sales Drake has ever had on top of all of this, just because of how low the hype meter is. And it's really going to be a telling moment when we see just how many other rappers have been able to outperform Drake in the sales department this year, and this will just bring everything full circle. So when it comes to this downfall of Drake, beyond all of the one-off singles and features that have flopped and people have tried to turn their eyes to, if Drake releases an entire album that does all-time low numbers and maybe even is considered a flop, there is nowhere else left for Drake to go. It will really be the end of his run. So now, all in all, at this point, as Drake has his back against the wall and we await what is all the makings to be his most disastrous record unless we see something unexpected happen or come to fruition, there is really nothing left to do than see if it will be the final decay of whatever is left of Drake's career and legacy. And so now, with all that said, let me know. What do you think about this new Drake album, and how do you think it's going to end up performing in the first week sales department, and do you think this project is going to be any good? I mean, a full-on R&B album with a singer is something that Drake has never done before, so this is kind of new territory for him, so maybe there's a chance it's decent, but based on his recent track record, I have no faith for this album, and so does the rest of the hip-hop world as well. Now, because of how pivotal this record is going to be, I really can't wait to hear what you have to say. And now, if you want to see how adding to the list of L's Drake has taken recently, he didn't receive a single Grammy nomination even for his features that were submitted. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar is about to sweep the award show with his diss tracks on Drake. And making things even more complicated still, even despite the Grammys getting this part right, the larger part of the award show is still a mess and has very complicated implications on the entire hip-hop world. Check out the suggested video.